Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Supernatural Selection. I'm your host, Kevin the Bastard. I am joined once again this week by Mike the Skeptic. Mike, how you doing?
I am here. Maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Am I really here? Is anybody really here?
I was about to ask that. Yes, you're actually really here, because if you were a simulation, then by God, it would make more sense, wouldn't it? Your life, I mean.
I'd like to think if I was a simulation, things would be better thought out.
There you go. And, of course, Mr. David Davis. David, how you doing today?
I'm doing well enough, but I wish you would refer to me as David the mildly disbelieving.
David, the middle ground between the two of us. So,
He's
right.
He's neutral territory.
He is. He's like Switzerland.
Yeah.
So, this week it's on to more Nostradamus. I hope everybody enjoyed last week. We learned so much about the man, the myth, the legend.
Nostradamus.
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 There we go. I like that.
Well, are you two gentlemen looking forward to getting into episode 2 here?
Sure. Let's tuck in and...
I am. It feels like we finished homework last week, and now we're going to actually start the school project that everybody's been looking forward to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because a lot of last week it was just like biography, but I think we established, some important things, some important context for what was going on.
We did.
I do have a correction. Speaking of homework, I ended up doing some more homework because my wife nagged me about it. So last episode, I had mistakenly referred to Henry VIII as Henry VII.
Okay.
But in my defense, there were at least a couple of Henrys floating around in the outline. So,
Oh, yeah. Get your Henrys
I
confused.
Mix
They
some
get
numbers
tangled.
around.
Well, we know that in history there were at least 8 of them, so I mean it's easy to mix up.
All 9 if you count the O. Henry bar.
And they continue to insist that we use Roman numerals, which are just so unintuitive.
Yeah. I'm Henry the V.
Just how many I's you put after that V.
Yeah.
Unless you got an X with a preceding I, then you're just all fucked.
Do you think Henry
Or then you
VIII...
get to like the M and the C.
Ooh,
Oh,
God.
God.
No, I have no fucking idea.
Like, I don't even know what Super Bowl we're on just because they started throwing random letters into the mix.
They're making a big assumption about their audience that the audience would understand what those Roman numerals mean.
Yeah, man.
No shit.
Yeah, and we're like educated, and I have no freaking idea. I mean, like, it could be a Q in there, and I'd just be like, okay, yeah, it's a Roman numeral, right? And speaking of, do you think Henry VIII ever, like, miscounted? I'm Henry the Ninth. 8th Henry. Sorry, 8th.
Well, considering how inbred the royal bloodlines were back then, probably more often than you'd think.
Oh, man. I almost wish we could do an episode about royal inbreeding.
We totally could. We
Yeah.
totally could. We just have to make an excuse or find some sort of occult connection to talk about royal inbreeding.
Oh, I'm going to look into that then. So, I feel like before we tackle the topic, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Right now, while we're recording, was it today or yesterday that Russia invaded the Ukraine?
It was, I think technically, well, for us, it would have been today, like in the early hours of the morning, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
It was pretty. I was up real late last night, like always. So I saw some start of it, but yeah.
So we just wanted to get out there that we do in fact support the people of Ukraine. We're not to get like completely political. We're all about the ha-has here, but this is some fucked up shit, and we definitely support the people of the Ukraine. If you are in the Ukraine and listening, we know that Poland has its borders open right now. So if you're looking to get out, I highly recommend go to Poland.
And then the other thing is, I saw someone put this on Twitter, like, very well, that, like, I'm tired of living in unprecedented times.
Yeah, no. No, we're surely living that Chinese curse.
We are living in interesting times.
You know, and yeah, I'm totally glad that we were able to kind of like talk about this a little bit because, you know, it's like, this is a huge deal. Like, every year we have some sort of huge deal coming through, but like, it's important to acknowledge these things as they happen and you know, hope for the best.
Pretty much. And well, it's I don't know, man. It's just really messed up in general. So,
Yeah.
but that being said,
I wonder
again,
if Nostradamus predicted it.
Oh God, you know, he could have. I mean,
It's entirely possible.
After this episode, you will believe a man can predict anything.
Let's go ahead and dive into this.
Yeah, take it away, buddy.
Okay, so last week it was mostly biography, you know, place setting. Today we're going to spend a lot more time on the prophecies and the results thereof, to this modern day.
And I'm excited about that because, man,
it gets a little spicy at the end, at least from me. At least for me, I get a little spicy,
which is cool. Let's dive into the sauce packets.
Yep. So my sources for this episode are 2 editions of prophecies. First is Nostradamus and his prophecies, compiled by Edgar Leone, first published in 1961, and it's over 800 pages long. Features the prophecies, correspondences, and other writings. The second is the Complete Prophecies of Nostradamus, part of the Sacred Text series, published in 2011. This seems to be like one of those like open source texts that people can just publish.
Oh, really?
You know. Yeah, I mean, because his writing's in the public domain at this point.
Oh, well, obviously. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine
but
he's
you know
got
how
a lot
that
of
is.
relatives.
You know how that is. Like, someone is able to reprint Dickens's work. Is like, so Barnes & Noble, they just have like their own brand of republished public domain stuff.
Absolutely. I love those.
Those fancy looking
the leather
books.
Bound.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, leather bound.
Those are so cool, though. I've got like Sherlock Holmes and the complete H.P. Lovecraft.
That'd be cool to have a copy of Nostradamus like that.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. Like, this is just a paperback. This is something that somebody obviously did, like, massive bulk order print on demand sort of thing and resold it. But, you know, it works. It has the prophecies. It's certainly lighter than the other one.
It does what it says on the tin.
Now, as for the biographical and historical context, again, I'm turning to Ian Wilson's Nostradamus, the man behind the prophecies. But more importantly this week, I'm looking at Stefan Gerson's Nostradamus, How an Obscure Renaissance Astrologer Became the Modern Prophet of Doom.
Well, that sounds cheerful.
Yes.
It is far from cheerful. Pretty depressing,
I
actually.
figured. It sounds like a terrible way to spend a Sunday.
Or, you know, give or take 3 or 4 Sundays, so there you go.
Okay, that's fair.
So, I didn't spend a whole lot of time talking about, like, how the quatrains worked, how Nostradamus came to write these things, and the more mythical side to all of this. We talked about the results of the quatrains, at least contemporarily, but let's go ahead and talk a little bit about how these things were put together.
Let's.
So, last episode, we discussed that a great deal of Nostradamus' predictions had come from him basically kind of feeling out the vibes of Europe at the time. So obviously, if shit's going to go down in England, it's going to affect the rest of Europe, no matter what.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing that today, so that's interesting.
Yes.
So, one thing we didn't mention, however, was that Nostradamus' predictions were often him repurposing prior historical events, because, as we know, history has a tendency to repeat itself.
Of course.
Yeah, no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's not like, it's kind of weird that Germany and Italy are kind of hesitant to put sanctions on Russia right now. That's a little unusual. That doesn't seem familiar.
No, not at all. No.
Yeah,
Don't
this
know what
doesn't
you're
remind
talking
me
about.
of the Blitzkrieg or...
Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are Germans right now just going, well, thank God it isn't us this time.
Right. We're just scrappy and misunderstood. We're not the bad guys this time. You know, take into account what his secretary Chavigny wrote on Nostradamus. He wrote that, quote, he saw in advance the remarkable shifts and changes that were about to happen in Europe. So, Note that when Chavigny wrote this around 1555, that was with the ascension of the super Catholic Mary Tudor to the
course.
English throne.
Yeah, again, this is all just your typical cold reading.
Yeah, it's very much crossing over all over again.
Right.
So, Chavigny claimed that Nostradamus kept his predictions to himself for a long time and that, quote, he anticipated, quite correctly, as events turned out, that the very novelty of the subject matter would not fail to arouse numerous misreportings, falsehoods, and venomous criticisms. But eventually, with the urge to be of public profit uppermost, he brought everything out into the open.
That's fair.
So, like, okay, I get that too a little bit. However, Wilson, in his book, has this great quote. Quote, modern-day skeptics may well find it difficult to avoid a wry smile upon reading Chavigny's naive-sounding assurances that Nostradamus' motives were, above all, quote, to be of public profit.
But he told me it wasn't for money.
Right. There's a lot of myth-making that, like, Nostradamus and his assistant and his son would eventually kind of take on. So,
Right.
again, this sounds very much apocryphal to me.
Sure.
I think if he was hesitant to publish anything, it was more like because he was afraid of getting burned at the stake.
Yeah, no, we're still in that whole period. Like, he's no stranger to being chased with a torch, essentially, right?
He got basically Inquisition twice,
Jeez.
as far as I know.
That's something you don't want to happen more than once, or even once.
Yeah, I think one Inquisition's a little too much.
So, yeah, he's trying to avoid that third Inquisitioning because, that one's not going to go well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure once you hit the third time, they're like, we don't give a fuck what you did. Fucking burn him.
It's
I
also
imagine by the
three
second time
Inquisitions
you
you're out
expect
rule.
the Spanish Inquisition.
I'm sorry, a 3 Inquisitions, you're out rule. That's awesome.
Oh my gosh. So, given Nostradamus' solid education and what seems to be a talent for social engineering exhibited in his life, I think it's pretty clear that Nostradamus could make educated guesses about what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. His talent, however, kind of laid in how he conveyed those guesses.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, this prophecy for profit angle, with both meanings fairly obvious here, is part of that social engineering that Nostradamus exemplified.
That would be a great book, by the way. Prophecy for Fun and Profit.
There you go. So, from Latham's Quarterly, I have this quote. The true significance of Nostradamus lies less in the future than in the present. After all, as detractors have pointed out, the prophecies have never been used to predict the future. They are always cited after the fact as evidence of Nostradamus' infallible accuracy. The legend of Nostradamus persists not because we want to understand what's ahead, but because we want to believe desperately that some divinable order lies behind all of the chaos. So nobody can really look into Nostradamus and successfully gauge the future. The only time we see the prophecies come up as being accurate is after something happens.
Of course.
Yeah, and I think I brought this up last time. I mean, that's the only way prophecies ever work.
So, they never really predict anything because they're written so vaguely, and the only time you hear about them is after we reinterpret the existing writing to match a situation we have.
Right.
So, as for how the prophecies were written, there's some archival writing from his son, Cesar, which reveals the process. So, we're going to get a little spooky dooky here. So,
Okay. Let's do it.
A little woo-woo.
Let's get the woo-woo going.
So, Nostradamus would claim to time travel through visions in the early hours of the morning. So, one quatrain, Century 1, Quatrain 1, lays out his process. Quote, being seated by night studying in secret, in lone repose on the brazen tripod, a faint flame springs from the solitude, causing to flourish that which is not to be believed in vain. So, for our fans of the Greeks, does any of this sound familiar?
Yes.
No.
Okay. What do you think, Kevin?
It honestly, it just sounds like the oracles.
That is exactly it. So essentially, his future sight was like that of the Delphic oracles of ancient Greece, or at least evokes it.
Look, I'm not gonna lie. I'm now picturing like 70-year-old Nostradamus sexy dancing like that scene in 300, and
Which would be impressive.
And I'm trying not to throw up.
Well, and that would be impressive because he died at like 65.
Oh, wow. Shit.
So,
Okay.
someone dug him up and dressed him up, put him in heels and lipstick. And
oh, man, that's great. That's gross. They've got like the most macabre fucking marionette show ever.
At least it's a marionette, not a puppet.
Andy's spouting prophecy the entire time.
I predict you're going to tip me big.
If you don't tip me big, the pants come off.
Ooh, no. So there's another quatrain that kind of goes further into this. So this is a bit more on how he would come up with these prophecies. Quote, "The wand is put in hand in the midst of Bronchus. In the water he moistens hem and foot. Fear and a voice cause trembling in his arms. Divine splendor. The divine being assumes proximity." So there's essentially what he had was a scrying.
Yeah, like a bowl of water he used. A bowl of water. I remember seeing stuff about this. He would stare into a bowl of water until, I guess, his eyes bled.
Or the absinthe kicked in.
Also, a very good point. Could have been absinthe involved in this.
Possibly magic mushrooms. We talked about this last time.
Yeah.
Could have been mushrooms.
Now, are we talking about the kind you find under a cow pat, or are we talking about the kind that you used to, like, put in your living room and open up, and it would make everything smell good?
Well, given the time period, it was probably both, because
Okay.
because people slept with their cows indoors.
That's very true.
Yeah. So yeah, basically like scrying, he would have like his own scrying pool. He would work like the Delphic oracle would.
Right.
So this second quatrain I mentioned evokes some of the text involved with this process as well. We're not going to go into too much detail about it, but there are references to the translation of the Corpus Hermetica and of the mysteries of the Egyptians, which were both done by Marsilio Ficino. So I don't expect anyone to know who these are, but these are Italian translations of like the Hermetica, which is a pretty important book in magical thinking, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then of the mysteries of the Egyptians, because Europeans were obsessed with the Egyptians.
Egypt mania was definitely a thing, and it was all the way like until the 30s. I mean, especially once they discovered King Tut's tomb. I mean, holy crap!
So, as for how far in the future Nostradamus claimed to have seen, the final year he mentions, and he rarely does very specific figures.
Yeah.
But he mentions the year 3797. Clearly that buffer has a purpose. He alludes to this in a letter to his then infant son Caesar. So Caesar isn't even old enough to walk yet, and he's already writing to his son like for the future, like you're going to take over basically. So what Nostradamus writes is, "Of that which I have perceived, in order to avoid any actual human eventuality scandalizing the fragility of what has been sensed by oracle, I have expressed everything nebulously rather than as clear prophecy."
Mike, do you want me to translate that into modern? Because I think I got a really good grip on this.
Okay.
I was covering my ass, kid.
And that is exactly right. So, again, a very wide period of time his prophecies potentially cover, right?
Oh, yeah.
And again, the claims are written very ambiguously. It's all very clever, honestly. Now, compounding things further is that the verses and prophecies are not in chronological order either.
I love the fact that it's like, I'm looking into the future. What year? No idea.
Right. So there's no pattern to the predictions, making it difficult to read it in like a predictory sense.
Right.
You can't just read through it and get like a guide into the future or anything like that because it's not written that way.
Which makes sense in the grand scheme of like the way scrying works. If you're not looking for anything specific, you're just seeing the future. You have no idea when you're seeing what you're seeing. You're just getting it willy-nilly, as it were. And that, here's the thing, out of everything with this and the whole, yeah, that's all bullshit, but like that's the most believable part to me.
Just him like tripping out, looking at a bowl and just writing down what comes to him.
Yeah, and no idea. And like, there's no guide. There's no like, I'm getting all this in order. It's just like, holy fucking helicopters and shit.
It'd be like the modern day equivalent of like a trip journal. Like if you take mushrooms every week and like you write down what you see.
Yeah, okay. Imagine you're watching TNT or USA or something, and you just every night you turn the TV on at a different time, and you write down like 5 minutes of whatever show is on.
Yeah. So, this is all part of protection, like the protection of himself, but he takes even further steps.
Mm-hmm.
What he's doing with prophecies was a lot like juggling a chainsaw. So, beyond walking the fine line of like that interpretive ambiguity, he also had to give it up to the man in the sky for his gifts. So he wouldn't be burned at the stake as a heretic.
Of course.
Because
yeah,
as we had mentioned last week, he was a wandering pharmacist of Jewish heritage who was also an atheist doctor who had been hounded by the inquisitorial action almost twice.
Jesus. Maybe he should just raised cattle.
I guarantee he would have had great cattle.
Probably so.
So, one of the other steps that he took to protect himself was to reduce any and all direct references he could by obscuring them by at least a little bit. One example is his usage of anagrams. So, like, he would use rapis for Paris.
Clever.
Mm-hmm. And then he would also refer to territories by older and less modern names. Well, modern in the sense of his time period.
Right.
The latter point would become important in the 20th century when we talk a little bit about a guy named Hitler. So,
Mike, what's that rule, Mike, where everything ends up eventually coming back to Hitler?
Isn't that Poe's Law?
Poe's Law.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, yeah, we're going to be talking about Nazis a little bit in this episode. That's going to be fun.
All right, everybody, take a drink.
So,
if you're listening at home, take a drink. We're going into Nazis.
So, one thing I want to...
Mike.
I heard something jingle. Is Mike actually taking a drink?
Yep,
Yeah.
too late.
Too late. He did.
I used to start drinking during these.
Yeah. That's what I usually do.
Yeah, that's how
It
he
helps
gets
cushion
through it.
The
Okay.
pushing.
Yeah. Oh, that's bad.
So, it seems for a while Nostradamus was like ambiguous as possible in many ways, but he did seem to predict his place in history. I don't know if it's insight or if it's ego.
I see what you did there, though.
Right.
Yeah.
So, in a subtitle for his great prognostication for 1557, which would have been, I believe, the year or 2 years after his death. I'm not sure. I don't remember the exact timeline.
Well, I know he wrote like 2 years worth right before he died.
Yeah. So this was his subtitle for that text. Quote, "In life I am immortal, and in death even more so. After my death, my name will live on throughout the world." Which he's not wrong.
Well, true, but...
So but like, is it just ego or... Oh. Okay, apparently my wife is bringing me a drink, so there we go. Well, might as well.
Okay, I guess I'm the one raw dogging it this time. Okay.
Oh man, strong. Woo! Oh boy. Okay. It's straight whiskey, and I just took like a big...
Holy crap, dude.
Oh, that burns. Okay.
So, we're talking about, like... Was it ego, or was it, like, just him?
Well, I mean, anyone who seems to be as much of a salesman as this guy was isn't going to think they're going to fade into obscurity.
Well, also, I kind of have I feel like he did the prophecies not just to cover his ass, but also the way he wrote them is so they could be poured over for years and years with people going, well, what the fuck did he mean by that?
I mean, obviously there was like an audience for this in his time.
Oh, obviously.
So
Very
therefore, you know.
And he was future proofing everything as well.
Yeah.
I don't see any current like TikTokers or anybody that has an audience thinking, after I die, people are just gonna forget about me.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's definitely optimism, but you know what? He was right.
Yeah,
I'll give him that.
Yeah.
So,
and I give him all the credit in the world for being, a good enough whatever he was to do that.
Right. Well, and part of me also wants to say that maybe this was added in by someone else. Like maybe Chavigny added this before it went out to press because Nostradamus was dead by then, right?
True.
So, but I think part of me just kind of wants to give him this one. Why the hell not,
No, I'm with you.
So what is clear is that Nostradamus became an industry after... Okay, so I did get the dates wrong. He died in 1565. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well,
So maybe he... Yeah, there we go.
It still could have been added later by someone else in a reprint, but yeah.
Could have been his agent.
I think he did it. I think he was like, look at my dick.
Yep.
Look at my big old dick.
He really Louis C.K'd that.
He really did.
Okay. So... It is clear that Nostradamus kind of became an industry after his death in 1565.
Mm-hmm.
Now, keep in mind that the claim was that Nostradamus had seen as far ahead into the future as 3797.
That's a hell of a year to see, too, by the way.
Right. So, I doubt Nostradamus was even in the ground before someone had thought that his work could be reprinted virtually forever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so specifically, publisher Benoit Rigaud did just that, publishing Nostradamus' 1565 almanac that year and printing earlier, like in 1558, he had printed the first full volume of the prophecies. So he was the first one to pull all of these different volumes of prophecies together and do like a big collected edition.
So he's the August Derleth to...
that's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, the August Derleth to Nostradamus' H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty apt comparison there. But,
Okay.
obviously this guy, he saw, there could be some money made with this thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, of course, with the death of a living legend, well, not a living legend anymore, but with the death of a legend, copycats and charlatans would come into the scene. Now, Nostradamus had dealt with this during his lifetime, but now he would be unable to fight them on account of his being a corpse.
I'd be impressed if he could.
So, the first of such fraudsters I could determine was Philippe de Nostradamus, who claimed to be his nephew. This is not the case.
Yeah.
So, a
Mike.
1570 letter... Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, Mike, we're going to change your last name to Nostradamus,
Okay, I'm down.
and we're going to do a book.
Sure, why not?
Awesome.
We-
Get to predict
I
it.
mean, we could, dude. We could.
Who's going to stop
So-
us?
Exactly. Nostradamus can't.
Fucking corpse. Dead motherfucker.
Oh, yeah, his corpse gets slapped up a little bit, too. We'll talk about that.
Grave robbing.
Yeah, this story gets pretty weird, man.
Wow.
So part of the reason we know Philippe de Nostradamus was not his nephew was in a 1570 letter from Nostradamus' brother Jahan to a relative, which confirms this. In the letter, he says, quote, "As for this so-called Philippe de Nostradamus, I don't know who he is, and on my life and on my honor, he has falsely assumed the name of Nostradamus, in order that his prattling should carry more authority."
Dude, this is so sad. This is reminding me of like when Gallagher's brother toured as Gallagher 2, except that they're not actually related, and like the family actually backed his brother. Okay, it's nothing like this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because that was actually his brother, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was his brother, but he did like tour as Gallagher 2 and use the same shtick.
Well,
Yeah.
At least it was kept in the family.
Okay.
To me, it's more like luchador stuff,
Ooh.
where like you'll have one luchador who like passes on the name to someone else. So you have like Dr. Wagner and then Dr. Wagner Jr. or like Blue Demon Jr.
Hey, did they ever pass like El Santo on?
I don't know. I can't think off the top of my head, but
man.
I think El Santo is like legendary in the sense that they like no one could do that.
Okay, that's fair.
People call bullshit on that immediately.
It'd be like having Jesus too.
Exactly.
Oh, that shouldn't be as
Jesus
funny as
Jr.
it is.
Comes into the
Jesus Jr. Oh, that's an animated series from the 90s I would have wanted to see right there with James Bond Jr., but Jesus Jr.
Jesus 2 Die Harder.
Ooh, we put him up on 2 crosses.
No, this time we put me on an X, so the X can really give it to you.
Oh, that's terrible. Tell us about more fake Nostradamus, David, please.
Of course, before I get us into trouble.
Yes.
So,
what you don't want to be in trouble with Jesus 2 electric communion.
Oh man.
oh man. So another one of these. This one's got an interesting name. So another one of these gentlemen was Antoine Crispin Nostradamus.
Crispin. Crispin Glover Nostradamus.
I was about to say Anton Crispin Glover Lewis Stevenson Nostradamus III Esquire.
He would publish a variation of the almanac for 1571 with this incredible fucking title that I am going to read to you.
Oh, please
Okay?
do.
And it's one of those long titles, so here we go.
Right.
This was the title for the 1571 almanac. Prognostication with its predictions for the year 1571, composed and calculated for all 9 of the world zones by M. Antoine Crispin, called Nostradamus, from Marseille in Provence, doctor of mathematics, manservant to the king, and physician to the Count of Tende, admiral of the West, Paris, at the house of Robert Colombel.
Wow, librarians got really tired of people asking for that one.
Yeah, oh my God, man. It's
Right?
like... Oh, God, how do you even file that? Just like I'm filing it under this shit. Just...
Well, and that was the title for one of them. Here's the title for another.
Oh, God.
This one, I believe, was published in, I want to say 1572. I'm not entirely sure. But the subtitle is A Verse Epistle Dedicated to the Most High and Christian Charles IX, the King of France, by M. Antoine Crispin Nostradamus, counselor, physician, and astrologer to His Majesty, concerning an admirable sign of the comet appearing in the sky, complete with the interpretation of the Ferrara earthquake and the flooding of Holland, Antwerp, and Lyons, the effects of which will continue to the year 1584.
Okay.
You know what this reminds me of?
Huh.
Fucking Tumblr hashtags.
It reminds me of SEO writing. You got to get that search engine optimized article out there, dude.
God
When you have a
damn it.
title that won't fit into a tweet, methinks you should, shorten it.
Well, but see, it's a subtitle. You know what I mean? The subtitle could be as long as you want.
God damn it. No, it can't. There are rules.
Apparently
Jesus.
not back then. This is
Man.
before the rules were established.
See, this is why we have those rules now, is because somebody is like, oh, hell, I ain't reading this. I just read all this
My
already.
subtitle is the book.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that fucking Fiona Apple album. The one that the whole title is just a poem.
That's awful. So Antoine would continue to publish these almanacs until about 1592. Yeah, he had a nice, decent career of bullshit.
Yeah,
going on.
he quit because he ran out of words.
He used all the words.
I think he just ran out of words at some point, and then he decided to die because he spent them all on their subtitles. So our last case I want to talk about here is the case of Michael Nostradamus the Younger.
Oh, that's a cheat.
Right. Now, he's another grifter with perhaps the ballsiest move yet, if true.
Okay.
He had predicted that a fire would burn down the town of La Poisine, and would later be found in the act of setting fire to the town to fulfill his prophecy.
Okay, yeah, it's awful, but he did predict the fire, and he never said he wasn't going to be the one that started the fire.
Well, then Billy Joel, made a song about it.
Oh, that's true.
But no,
I thought it was we didn't start the fire.
Yeah. It's not prophecy when you self-fulfill it.
It is. By nature, it's called...
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's when the prophecy is a bygone conclusion. When you prophesy something and then do it yourself, that's just saying... That's a manifesto.
That's being proactive.
That's not a prophecy, that's manifesto.
You know what? This is honestly just like the arson version of when a serial killer just wants to get caught.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to switch my MO. I'm tired of getting away with this shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna write a prophecy about burning a town down, and then I'm gonna try to burn a town down.
So, you have all these people who come in at the wake of, Nostradamus' death.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as for the estate of Nostradamus proper, his wife, Anne Posnard, would care for the family for another 16 years, seeing all of her children into adulthood.
Which is great.
Yeah, as a whole, the family was rather happy and healthy with no real tragedy besetting them. It's a wonder how wealth increases the quality of one's life.
That's true. It's like, oh, that's really nice. And then you remember, oh, wait, they were loaded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially by the end there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as for Cesar, it would be a bit before he would take on the proper Nostradamian mantle. So he would study astrology for a time.
This is really like when a son takes over his father's place as a town cobbler, if the town cobbler cobbled bullshit.
Little poop nuggets.
Little poop nuggets. He's making little poop nuggets to put out in the world in book form.
Wait, I'm sorry. A cobbler is a person who makes shoes, right?
Yes.
Why am I thinking of cobblestone streets made of shit?
I was thinking of someone that makes, cobblers.
Like
oh, no.
Peach cobbler?
Yes.
You don't want these peach cobblers.
No.
Oh, they came right out to me, Peach.
They're road apple cobblers.
Oh, God.
Oh, man.
Oh, glad I already ate. Jesus.
Oh, man. So, in the short term, the Nostradamus machine was being run by Chauvier, who would publish compilations of his master's writing, along with commentaries and interpretations.
Okay.
Now, the issue with this, however, is the number of biographical inaccuracies, which calls into question how close Chauvier even was with Nostradamus in real life, calling into question every bit of research I've done for the past several goddamn weeks.
I love that. When you're like, oh, you know what this reminds me of? When Marcus on last podcast was doing research into Nazis and the occult, and you get like all the way through an article and then bam, oh wait, this is a Delta Green supplement for Call of Cthulhu.
No.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm fortunate in the sense that like Ian Wilson did a lot of the heavy lifting, but even then it's also like, oh my gosh, like
yeah.
it just we can't be 100% sure because it is the 16th century, so fuck it.
Hey, I got a great idea for you, buddy. When time travel is invented, we can travel back into the past, find Chauvier, and pants him.
I was just gonna go say like, have Nostradamus write us into the prophecies.
Oh wow, that's even cooler, man.
See, we were talking about like being like flim flam artist last episode. That's the flim flam artist thought process.
That's our grift. That's our grift. We get into the prophecies, and he talks about how awesome the podcast is. I like this.
That's why you have me. I'm the one with no soul.
Yeah.
Yes. No. If I had time travel, it'd just be like boring shit like buying Microsoft and Apple stock.
Again, I'd be going back and checking out dinosaurs, but yeah. Anyway, let's.
So Chauvier would eventually pass away in 1603 after the publication of his Pleiades, which is a compilation.
Okay.
from there, Cesar would take on the mantle of Nostradamus's work.
So, like, basically, once he came of age and really sort of
Yeah, but the difference here is that he wasn't making any prognostications or prophecies.
Yeah.
He just kind of took over running the empire, basically.
Definitely the Chris Tolkien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Cesar's most significant work was not in prognostication, but rather gilding the legend that was his father.
Well, that's how you make the money, isn't it?
Yeah, and here's the thing. He didn't even really know his father all that well because Cesar wasn't even born until Nostradamus was in his 50s.
Wow. Do we want to talk about this randy old goat man for a second, or...
I see myself getting into your pants.
Oh, Nostradamus!
I wonder what a Nostradamian pickup line would be like.
I already know where this is going.
No, I'm good. But no, so like at most, I imagine like Cesar was maybe like 15 years old when his father passed away.
Damn.
Like, I don't have the exact number. So, but even then, like, apparently his father really provided for him. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, he wrote letters.
Yeah. So, like, Cesar's single greatest accomplishment was a nearly 1,000-page history and chronicle of Provence, which was published in 1614. And a lot of it includes a great deal of information about the Nostradamus family because they were, like, patrons of this area.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah, so that's where we get a lot of our history, I think, from all of this. And at least I think that's where... Wilson pulls a lot from too, but then again, it's also kind of like loaded because it's trying to increase the value of Nostradamus to the community there.
Sure, but I mean, that's what you do.
Right.
Grift and ran in the family.
So we've talked about the grifters. We've talked about like the immediate Nostradamus machine that starts. Let's skip ahead a few decades now.
Okay.
So... among the claims that Nostradamus make about the prophecies is that Nostradamus had predicted everything from the Great Fire of London to the French Revolution to the rise of Napoleon. It would also become a common belief that he predicted the rise of Adolf Hitler, the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the moon landing, the AIDS crisis, and 9/11. Like, even today, there are people who believe that he predicted the coronavirus.
God, look.
Yeah, I saw that.
Do you think when he was doing this, I mean, he can't always land on like some major event. Do you ever wonder just how many times he looked into the future in that bowl and saw some guy jackhammering a fleshlight to My Little Pony and just had to weep for what was coming?
Probably quite a bit, I would imagine, because bronies are everywhere.
Just in general, just like, oh, Christ. All right, we're going to skip that one. Where's the fast forward spell?
You'd imagine he'd probably question after the third time of seeing the exact same thing with the exact same guy. It's like, why do I keep coming back here?
But then he realizes it's a slightly different time, so it's actually different instances.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's later afterwards, and the guy's crying in shame about what he's done.
Yes, exactly.
No, he's definitely not crying in shame.
No, it's like, okay, what? Okay, I'm seeing
Him
the
rinsing
future.
the fleshlight in the dishwasher.
Yeah, oh, God. All right, he's got a jar. He has a little plastic horror. Oh, my God.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Probably the most disturbing thing we've talked about so far.
Okay, yeah, I apologize. I'll let y'all handle this now.
So we could probably agree that it's not true that Nostradamus really predicted these things because we spent the last 20 minutes talking about how these prophecies worked.
Yes.
The important thing is that as history marched onward, it would perform its cyclical dance. Nostradamus would be evoked. This is particularly important in the era of the French Revolution, as his tomb would be desecrated during this time. So, the 18th century was a trying time for Europe, and the resurgence in prophetic writing took hold during such unprecedented times. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, no idea what you're talking about.
So, in England, the publication of choice was Old Moore's Almanac, selling close to 400,000 copies by 1803.
That's a lot.
Yeah, considering like the population and everything like that, because you were still having small spatterings of the plague, but it started to become under control, so the population's able to swell So if we assume that there are 400,000 copies being sold of this almanac, it just tells you how much more likely it was that the population was so much larger.
Yeah, and in all fairness, there wasn't anything else to do.
So, or except maybe to die in a territorial war, but...
Sure, but, I mean, between that, you gotta read.
Yeah. So, just as Oldmore's almanac was selling like mad in England, France would see a resurgence of sales of the prophecies of Nostradamus.
Already in French.
So, as the Napoleonic era rolls around, Nostradamus was already dead for like 2 centuries.
Yeah.
All right. But his vague writings could easily be repurposed in the context of a war-torn Europe.
Yes, but David, surely that only happened the once, right?
I can't think of another time.
Yeah, nope, totally.
It's a tragedy that this thing happened only one time.
Yep, only the once, and then we never heard from Nostradamus again.
So, during the early run of the Napoleonic Wars, Nostradamus' predictions were considered an omen of Napoleon's eventual takeover of Europe. However, a little battle called Waterloo ran counter to these interpretations.
Oh ho!
Worry not, though, because if Nostradamians can be given credit for anything, it's for changing the narrative to fit their facts. Enter Quatrain 60 of Century 1, stating, "An emperor will be born near Italy, who will cost the empire dear. When those with whom he allies are spoken of, he will be found to be less a prince than a butcher."
Okay.
Yeah, so, so he ends up, Napoleon's responsible for a lot of death in Europe.
Yes.
I don't know how familiar our audience is with the Napoleonic Wars, but it was not a fun time.
No.
A lot of people died.
Really?
Yeah, that seems to happen. So, it sounds pretty astounding when you tend to ignore how these things are written and how, again, just prior to this interpretation, the claim was that Nostradamus had seen the takeover of Europe by Napoleon.
Have we considered that this might actually have been about a butcher?
It could have been about a butcher, yeah. Yeah, totally. So, of course, forgeries also would start to become involved, such as a supposedly lost Nostradamian text that read completely different to his actual quatrains, and that was almost written perfectly to fit the events of the era. So I have this bullshit right here.
Okay.
Depart over ashes and ruins, and having no more bread and water, by great cold which will be so unfortunate for them, 2/3 of his army will perish, and half the rest will be no more under his dominion.
That's way too fucking specific to be our man.
Right. Doesn't even sound like Nostradamus either.
Right, Mike?
Yeah.
So, it's during this time of upheaval, the French Revolution, that Nostradamus' tomb would be desecrated and his remains thrown about the church where they were residing.
Did they just pick him up and bitch slap him?
Pretty much. It's very sad, actually. It's very fucked up.
Oh no.
So I'm going to quote Stefan Gerson here.
Hang on. Mike had something.
I'm just saying that they just slapped his corpse around.
Oh.
I mean, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. More like they probably took him by the femur and swung him around to see how far he could spread.
Holy shit!
That's what. That's banana boats.
Yeah.
That's pretty extreme, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you have
But
a quote
it was
for
extreme
this,
times. Right? Okay. I'm sorry, Kevin. What'd you say?
You've got a quote for this because I gotta hear.
Yeah.
I gotta hear the story.
Okay, so I'm going to quote Stefan Gerson here, who wrote, Nostradamus' last descendant at the time was a dim-witted beggar who the locals called a prophet. Nostradamus' crypt was accordingly the only place to feel Nostradamus' presence, but the guardsmen spent little time pondering such connections. Instead, they broke the tomb open, exhumed the remains, and spread them across the church floor. Now, as to why... One suggestion is that if the French Revolution was a leftist movement, Nostradamus was a figure who represented the right, as his predictions and writing were often praising the monarchy of his day, which, if you know anything about the French Revolution, know this: the people did not like the monarchs anymore.
That just sucks. I mean, Nostradamus, in context, he was trying to stay on their good side and make some fat stacks.
Right. And I'm going to continue quoting Gerson here, who writes, quote, "Still, Nostradamus was moving towards the political right, like as a phenomenon in Europe at the time.
Right.
Moving towards the political right, along with prophetic language in general. Disenchanted, anguished, and resentful, royalists found in his quatrains portrayals of an apocalyptic battle and a disastrous finish for the revolution. Meanwhile, the people who are of the revolution see this as being like PR or puffery for the people who they are trying to destroy."
So you're saying, what you're telling me is that we have a prophet whose writings were co-opted by the right. That doesn't
Yes.
sound familiar at all.
Yeah, I'm sure that's never going to happen again.
It's never happened before or since.
Nope. It's amazing how so many one-offs are happening in this story. I can't even lie about this anymore. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So Nostradamus' crypt was not the only tomb desecrated during the French Revolution. It might not be surprising to realize that a lot of tombs were broken into. Princes, nobles, clergymen would all have their remains tampered with. Churches would be destroyed, palaces raided, the people would target the vestiges of the old ways, and unfortunately, the prophet was considered to be part of that.
Jesus Christ.
Right.
No, not
So
his tomb.
they would have traveled a little bit further for that one.
Nice.
But, so basically, it's just people who are tired of being oppressed. They see some sign of, like, someone who they feel kind of put them in that position as well, because as someone who, like, worked for the royals during his day, he helped to perpetuate this system of abuse. Now, it could have also just been a bunch of drunk soldiers fucking with a church. It happens more often than you think.
It really does. I mean, I think maybe you should not let drunk soldiers get away with stuff. But anyway.
Right. And, his remains were collected and they were put into a new crypt, a better crypt. So, like things, aside from his body becoming a human Jenga for a little bit, things were okay.
Oh, God.
So we're going to go ahead and do a little time skip here. We're skipping into WW2.
The Second Great World War II.
Or as I like to call it, why?
So we're...
God damn. The Nintendo why?
So we're going to turn to one of the more hilariously stupid chapters of the Nostradamus story. We're going to talk about occult warfare in World War II.
Oh, God.
We are going to talk about the Nazis.
Yeah, okay, take another drink.
Damn it, Poe,
okay, here I
stop
go.
being right. I finished
This
my
time
drink.
I didn't take a big gulp.
Drink
right.
my Coke in solidarity.
All right, so,
Oh, no, it's not. You keep going.
okay. So a lot has been said about Nostradamus predicting the rise of Adolf Hitler and the various depravities and tragedies of World War II. The problem is that a lot of this stuff, at least the Hitler stuff, is just from a dumb mistranslation and misunderstanding of Nostradamus' writing. So the real story in all of this is how the Axis and Allied powers literally used Nostradamus as part of the war effort in a really bizarre chapter. So...
What's up, Mike?
No, keep going. I don't want to interrupt.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So, as for the prediction of Hitler, as well as the larger conflict of World War II, much falls on a very rough translation of Quatrain 57 of Century 3, compiled by Abbe Charles Nicolade in 1914. And the quote is, 7 times you will see the British people change. Tinged with blood, in 290 years, France, not by supporting Germany, Ares doubts its Bastarnian pole.
Mike, David, have you ever been called a Bastarnian Pole?
Once, but I didn't know what they were talking about, so I just kind of blew it off.
Okay, that's fair.
If I had a quarter for every time I was described as a Bastarnian pole, I would have 2 quarters.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah,
That's a lot of
it's
quarters.
very weird.
But so I did want to say I looked it up and we're wrong. It's Godwin's law.
Godwin's law.
There we go.
That for any as an online discussion grows longer, the chances that it'll come back to Nazis increases.
You know,
Or Hitler. It usually comes back to comparisons to Nazis or Hitler.
our show is just that law incarnate.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Poe's law.
Way to blitzkrieg your way into this, Mike.
Nice.
Should I say Hitler?
Poe's law is the law that any sarcasm can be construed as, fact.
Which also applies here too.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Without a
We're
clear
very
indicator of author's
law-abiding.
intent.
Indeed.
Like that time Colbert, or the many times Colbert was thought to be an actual conservative pundit
Oh,
by
God.
the right.
So, part of the reason why this quote is interesting is what was going on in 1914? Why might the Germans be important?
I don't know. I can't think of it. It's eluding me.
Maybe World War One.
Right. So again, this might be a case of this Nicolad fella also kind of pulling his own little Nostradamian thing where he's kind of reading the leaves. And he may be looking at because, as clear back as World War One, you could predict there was going to be a World War Two.
Well,
Pretty successful.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. What's the quote, Kevin? I forget who it was.
Which one about?
Well, the at the signing of the Treaty of
at the
Versailles.
Treaty of Versailles. Yeah, no, I don't remember the exact quote, but somebody read the quote and said, "This is not
The treaty.
Yeah, this is not a treaty. This is we're going to be doing this again in 20 years."
Yeah, and we could talk a lot about how the Treaty of Versailles was a big mistake.
Yeah, it definitely put
It set the stage for World War II for sure.
onerous and undue hardships on the parties involved.
Yeah,
Just made a very long ceasefire, basically.
Yeah, if you wanna hear more of that, go pay Dan Carlin and listen to Hardcore History Blueprint for Armageddon. Fantastic series.
Armageddon.
The greatest podcast ever created is Dan Carlin's Hardcore History.
I'm listening to Supernova in the East again right now to get caught up.
So good.
I know.
His series on the Mongols is incredible.
Yeah, can we just say his series on everything is pretty fucking great?
Yeah. Dan
Yeah.
Carlin's great. If you're listening, and I know you are, we appreciate you. We want you on the show.
We really do appreciate you.
So, another thing to note is that the 290-year period mentioned in the quatrain does not include a start date. So even without a specific number, because of that lack of a specific start date, that it's still vague. It can apply to nearly any situation.
That's true.
So something about the year 1939, however, holds the key, especially if you start that 290-year countdown after the execution of Charles I in 1649.
So you're saying the English being changed 7 times.
Mm-hmm. And it just happens to line up with 1939. And, I wonder if 1939 is going to be important. So...
Good rhubarb crop that year.
Mm-hmm. So history's second greatest monster, Adolf Hitler, was in jail in 1921 in Munich. At the time, a German postal worker, I don't have his first name, I'm going to say it's Karl Lug, the only name I have for this asshole, took up an interest in the Nicolad translation of prophecies and that specific quatrain. Now,
boy.
latching on to the term Bastarnian, Lug would publish a book suggesting whatever climactic event in this quatrain would involve Germany and Poland in 1939. That is because Bastarnian is a reference to the tribal rulers of what would become Poland. Because remember, Nostradamus always obscured details, so here it's essentially backfiring spectacularly here.
No, if there was a fucking prize for backfiring, this would be a contender for the gold medal in the we done fucked up Olympics.
Now again, it's also probably a lot of, reading the room, right? Because by the 1920s, with the rise of Adolf Hitler in Germany, like he has his mind set on the expansion of and the creation of a Third Reich. So,
right.
Again, it doesn't take a Nostradamus to kind of see some of these patterns.
Well, and like you were saying, I mean, this Luke, which, fuck that name.
Yeah.
Luke probably was reading the prophecies and whoever did the original translation. Who did you say it was? Not Luke. Nicolad. He may have been reading it and figuring it out, and then that, of course, tints his translation.
Right, and then these things just build on each other.
Of course.
So it continues to build in a very stupid direction. The book does not become a problem until it was picked up by Dr. H.H. Kritzinger, who mentioned the Poland theory in his own book, Mysteries of the Sun and Soul, in 1922.
Okay.
Now, by September 1st, 1939, Hitler is swept into power as Chancellor of Germany's Third Reich, and nearly immediately orders his Panzer Division to sweep into Poland, annexing it. Now, weeks later, Magda Goebbels, the wife of Dr. Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's propaganda minister, points out Luke's Poland theory in Kritzinger's book.
I had swollen Magda Goebbels one time, and they had to give me some cream.
A little cortisol will take care of that.
Yeah.
So, and here's the thing. She woke up her husband in bed. They were asleep. He was asleep. She was reading, Nostradamus books at night, and then she's like, honey, wake up. I have something for you.
Man, I just picture it being Archie Bunker's wife.
So,
Joseph, wake up! I got a thing for your career.
Oh, man. So, here's the thing. We know that from October to December of 1939, Goebbels' propaganda ministry was devoting decent time to Nostradamus and astrology and how it could be used for the war effort.
Oh, boy.
The plan was simple. I quote Ian Wilson here, quote, "As early as November 22nd, the decision was taken to produce a Nostradamus leaflet in French, inevitably for propaganda purposes. A few days later, a very apprehensive Kritzinger found himself summoned to the ministry for some key questioning concerning all that he knew about Nostradamus." It continues. This bit is also very good. Wilson writes, quote, "Not without difficulty, Kritzinger managed to persuade Goebbels that he personally possessed absolutely no powers of predicting the future."
Okay, I want you to stop for 1 second. Can you imagine the bullet-sweating situation of trying to convince the Nazis that you are not a psychic?
Oh, that's got to be a bad situation.
Oh my God, I want that as a movie.
So I want to hear the conversation, though, because I just want to hear Goebbels be like, "So, can you tell me what's in the future for the fear?"
No, I'm not even sure I'm going to survive this meeting. I promise you I am not a psychic.
So Kritzinger very smartly would direct the Ministry of Propaganda to Karl Ernst Kraft, an astrologer and paranormal researcher, and he most certainly would have had a podcast today.
I feel a little bit called out by that, but and there's so many situations in this that just get my imagination running. Imagine Kraft running into Kritzinger in the street after this. "You son of a bitch, I swear to God, I'll kill you!"
Oh, and it seems like Kraft was pretty on board.
Oh, really?
For a bit.
Okay. Well, I
doesn't
take
really
that
work
back.
out for him in the end.
Oh, I bet it doesn't.
Yeah, it seems to be a thing with Nazis. So, the Ministry of Propaganda would have ultimately produced thousands of copies of propaganda brochures that pretended German victory across multiple European languages. They additionally published an edited version of prophecies that skewed the prophecies to be more in favor of the Reich.
Quatrain 1, Century 1. Yeah, this Hitler guy is amazing.
I heard that he could kickflip over 3 homeless people.
I heard that he could lift a car over his head and then, if he so wanted, could swallow the car.
I heard that his balls clack as he walks.
Now that I believe.
So, meanwhile, in London, which is currently besieged by the Blitz, enters the, quote, seriously overweight Hungarian-born refugee novelist with a special interest in astrology, Louis de Wohl.
I'm pretty sure that last name translates to of the whale.
I also appreciate we had to know that he was seriously overweight.
The fact that they had to throw that in there. How fat in that time? How fat did you have to be listed as seriously overweight? And this is Churchill's around.
Like what 2 bills 30?
But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, maybe. I mean, back then,
Tombstone.
Like, have you ever seen, like, pictures of, like, the fat lady in, like, old circus photos? And you're like, it's not that
like
fat.
I've seen a man that had to be removed from an apartment building with a forklift. That's not that fat.
Yeah. No, it's...
I probably weigh more than that.
Oh, God. I hope not.
Oh, no.
I hate the idea that you might be... Like, if we get a picture of Louis de Wohl and put it next to you, we're going to be like, oh, no.
Then again, I probably have, like, a foot on him.
You know what? You're probably right. This motherfucker is probably, like, 4'3" and, like, 4'3" wide.
Yes.
So, inspired by astrological patterns of Nazi military movements and the appointment of Kraft in Germany, de Wohl worked for the Special Operations Executive for the Allied Forces.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't OSS, that's American, but
right.
Special Operations Executive. So this was like I think this predated MI6, if I recall
I think
correctly.
so. In fact, I think World War II led to the founding of organizations that would eventually become today's intelligence agencies.
Yeah. So the thing is that Louis de Wohl overestimated Kraft's influence. He thought that Kraft was some form of personal Nostradamus advisor to the Fuhrer. Instead, he was actually just working with the German news office, publishing the book How Nostradamus Foresaw Europe's Future in 1941, again using selective or edited quatrains.
It's just propaganda, and this guy's like, they're using psychic powers!
So Special Operations Executive ends up doing their own propaganda work with Nostradamus, following seeds planted before the invasion of France. So Dr. Max de Fontbrun, maybe? He wrote Dr. Max de Fontbrun.
Okay.
Max de Front Butt.
Max de Front Butt.
Yes, Max of Front Butt.
So he wrote a book in 1938 that predicted quite astutely that France would be invaded by Germany.
I'm pretty sure that was not hard to see coming.
Yeah. Again, read the fucking room.
Yeah.
So, I'd argue that the signs were on the wall based on Germany's ramping up of their war machine, but the book was still banned by the Vichy government when France was annexed in 1940. The Germans were like, nope, no more of that book.
Nope. We're going to disappear that one.
Right. So, regardless, de Wohl would use this book as part of a counter-propaganda push. This book would play on the idea that Nostradamus' mention of a hister referred to Hitler, when in fact it was just an obscure way to refer to the Danube River in Germany.
I've heard that actually quite a lot, and I believe that it was actually he's talking about the river.
Yeah, because he used to call countries by older names. He used to refer to them by, the tribes that held them and everything like that. So he went with the name Hister. Another trick up the sleeve of de Wohl was to leak fake correspondence involving Kraft, suggesting that Germany would lose the war. But at this point, it didn't really matter because Kraft was already imprisoned at the time.
He must have
Nazis.
Must have accidentally called Hitler the potato-headed git that he was.
Something like that, because like the people who got the letter, they're like, well, he was in jail. How could he have written this? So, it would...
It's alternate.
It's a magical war. It's a magical war in World War II. It's very stupid.
It is. There's a lot of stupid in that war, yes. But like, it was alternately, you had to either A, really fuck up bad to be imprisoned by the Nazis, or not do all that much
Right,
to get in prison by the Nazis. It just kind of depends on who you are.
Well, the Jews would have something to say about that.
I know, I'm talking about within the German military.
Oh, Kev, that's the thing about authoritarian regimes. They don't take kindly to anything at all.
That's true. Didn't Kim Jong Un have like one of his uncles fed to like wild dogs or something?
That's reportedly.
Allegedly.
All right, that's fair.
That's a word we need to use more in this show.
You're
Allegedly.
right. I don't know, man. Like
we should just say allegedly at the beginning, and it just covers everything we say afterwards.
That should be the
like
subtitle of every episode.
Yeah, it's just a disclaimer. Everything you hear is allegedly. Take with a grain of salt.
Oh, yeah, I'll
just set a timer every 5 minutes, and one of us has to bark in allegedly. So, so that's the magical war going on in Europe, which that's not like even the dumbest part of the magical war. We'll talk about that in the future, probably.
Oh, but, we have to, yeah.
The Americans would also become involved fashionably late.
That's our thing, man.
Yeah. So President Roosevelt encouraged MGM, the big movie studio in Hollywood at the time, to make a series of Nostradamus short films that would suggest America's role in ending the war and swaying public opinion to join the war, because Americans were very much not wanting to get involved in another European war, even though they profited really well off of the last one.
Yeah, but America Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that, mostly America up until World War II was still trying to be isolationists. Mm-hmm. World War I they did not want to do that.
Yeah. So MGM did some really heavy fucking lifting here. Taking the term flambeau, which translated to torch in English, and suggesting that it was a direct reference to the Statue of Liberty.
I've been called Flambeau a few times. I'm very Flambeau.
That sounds like a cool name, man.
It really is.
What's up? I'm Flambeau. How you doing?
Yeah, you want to come back to my place? I can show you my etchings. I'm Flambeau.
So, this occult warfare of the Second World War is probably one of the most ridiculously nerdy things to have ever happened as part of shaping the geopolitical makeup of the globe. Right? It had an actual effect on the shaping of the globe in a small way, but it's weird to think about how much that actually kind of affected all this. It's very strange. It's very strange.
We're living in the aftermath of a war that involved everybody taking a man staring into a bowl of water seriously.
Right. Nostradamus being a chapter in this very much like a fuck it, throw it in moment in all of this. So it's a very strange chapter of his legacy. Maybe the oddest of all, but I think we can get a little odder. I think we're going to try to do that. We're going to take things a little stranger here. Now, note that, again, all of this stemmed from Nostradamus' gimmick, his vagueness as a way to protect himself. In doing so, however, his writing became a sword of more than one nation at war.
You know what? All this talk about this and legacies affecting the world, I really hope that Bill Hicks' comedy doesn't somehow lead to the end times.
Yeah, it's like in our war with the people on Mars. Once we split into colonies, and some of them follow the teachings of Bill Hicks.
Yeah, it's gonna be the Hicksons versus the Carlinites.
You know what? I'm willing to die in the comedy wars.
Yeah, I'll fight in them. I'll fight.
I'll land a couple jokes.
I'll fight under the banner of George Carlin.
I'll fight for either.
Yeah.
So, we're going to move into our final section here.
This is a rough one.
So, fueled by a rough couple decades and government distrust, the late 20th century became another period in which Nostradamus would come into the spotlight again. This is no more apparent than in the events surrounding September 11th, 2001.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, not just September 11th, but all the Nostradamus punditing
Yeah.
around it.
Well, hey, look, of course you remember, never forget.
Well, yeah. Well, sometimes I forget, and then I feel bad about it.
You know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and read the one word I had as a note for when you said September 11th. Fuck.
Yeah. So I'm going to quote from Stefan Gerson here, who writes, I've used him a lot in this episode, but I haven't always quoted him. But here's a great quote from him. Mm-hmm. This is about like the immediate aftermath of 9/11. So within hours, rumors circulated that he, Nostradamus, had predicted it all. One widely distributed email contained a prophetic text that spoke of a city burning, a third big war beginning while a great leader succumbed, and two brothers being torn apart by chaos. Another email evoked a king of terror and disaster during the year of the new century and 9 months. Quote, the sky will burn at 45 degrees and fire shall engulf the world.
You know what? I feel like I'm back on Usenet.
Yep. So, these are not real Nostradamus predictions.
Of course not.
But they spread immediately in the days and weeks after 9/11. They actually mutated from an initial fake prediction composed by a Canadian student.
Damn Canadians.
Mm-hmm. Blame Canada.
Blame Canada.
There were, of course, many other such predictions at this time because, again, there's an entire industry about this thing, which we're going to get into, that followed the chaos of 9/11.
Yeah, and I really just want to point out that nobody fucking ever does research when there's a Nostradamus prophecy going around. They just assume the shit is all nice and accurate.
Well, and this is especially true in like 2000s internet, right? Because we didn't really develop that information literacy. We hadn't really like gotten into trolling too much.
Oh yeah, no, everything was true. Yeah. It's like that. Yeah. It's like that whole thing about surely they wouldn't lie on the internet.
I know for a fact that Mr. T ate my balls.
I pretty much, within the first couple of years of becoming internet savvy, was plunged into something awful. So
that's true.
I was formed by the trolls, molded by the trolls.
No, I'm talking like broad strokes until I was a man.
What did you say, David?
Sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. I'm talking like broad strokes here, like collectively as a society, because there were those of us who. There were those of us who kind of picked up on like, okay, well, there's some bullshit going on here. But like for the vast amount of society, like nobody thought that like the internet could be used for ill will. It was mostly to sell Beanie Babies and pet food and all of that. So
and was Wikipedia around at the time? I don't know when it launched. Can't remember.
Wikipedia first showed up when I was in high school, actually.
Really?
I think.
But it still wasn't like
Wikipedia
probably in well-known use at the time.
Mm-hmm.
January 15th, 2001.
So before.
Oh wow!
So the same. Well,
year. I was in high school at the time, so there you go.
But it was still. It still takes several years before it became common internet, parlance
resource.
Yeah.
Well, and this was back when Amazon was still just like a bookstore.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah, I remember that.
So if you online wanted to say sanity check some random supposed Nostradamus quotes, you might be hard pressed to find the actual text.
Or you could drive to Barnes and Noble, find a copy of a book, and read.
Fuck that, no.
Well, actually, that is actually the case. So all of these fake prophecies resulted in further interest in Nostradamus' writings. So I have a quote from the New York Times published like the week after 9/11.
Oh, wow.
Quote, among the top 25 best-selling titles at the online bookseller Amazon.com for much of last week and again yesterday were 3 editions of Nostradamus' prophecies, 4 books about the Taliban movement in Afghanistan, and 2 histories, each of the World Trade Center and Osama bin Laden's terrorist network. So you have all of these very legitimate, serious books about terrorism and Middle Eastern, policy and that sort of stuff, and then you have 3 different fucking translations of Nostradamus.
Jesus.
I really appreciate the online bookseller Amazon.com.
Yeah, seriously.
Compare it now to the company that owns every single one of us.
The online oligarch of retail, Amazon.com, which I have to admit my part in it. If I need something, it's the first place I look.
We have all bathed in the blood
2-day
of it.
shipping, man. 2-day shipping. Gotta love it. So what I'm getting to here at this point is that Nostradamus is an industry in the Western world.
Oh yeah.
His writing, his assumed track record, the openness to interpretation generated by his writing has made him a publishing staple for like centuries, really. But like especially like these days, he's like bread and butter in certain circles.
I would, at least in my experience, I would say it seems like he's on the wane. Like I would say, 90s, early 2000s, I heard more about Nostradamus than I have, in the 20 teens.
Sure. But then again, the thing is, in his history, he had that same issue. Like the century after he died, he was on the wane again. But the minute like shit starts kicking up in France with the revolution, Big Daddy Nostradamus is back.
It's all cycles. He will come back when it's time for people to go crazy.
So you're saying he'll flare up and then die down
like hemorrhoids,
like herpes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's like psychic herpes.
Yes.
So and that's the thing. There's also a universality and a timelessness to Nostradamus. So I'm going to quote Gerson, who here he writes this. I think this is like a beautiful statement here. Quote, Nostradamus draws us into a strange universe full of ghosts, eerie prophets, and ominous forecasts. The strangest thing of all, however, is that Nostradamus and his predictions have become an enduring facet of the modern West.
Very true.
Yeah, so you mentioned like he's on the wane right now, but I would suggest that based on what we're looking at right now, he's going to be bouncing back pretty hard. So, and we'll get into that a little bit.
Well,
so,
in uncertain times, people are looking for some stability, some reason, something to help, and some vague predictions can be a bit of stability.
Well, yeah, right. It's like we were saying earlier, or I think David was saying earlier that it's about answers. You're looking for some kind of a force that can, if not predict, show that there's like a through line.
And again, like, well, and again, you have like people making that suggestion that Nostradamus saw the coronavirus, right? Mm-hmm. I guarantee you within the next 2 weeks, we're going to get someone who says, oh, Nostradamus predicted what happened with Ukraine.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, yeah, I mean, he lived through a fucking plague, so of course he's going to be like, there's going to be a plague.
Yeah. So, Nostradamianism at this point is the self-replicating machine. It's a timeless source of after-the-fact revelations that will only continue to perpetuate as long as human society exists. However, the problem is that people still believe these things, going as far to make arbitrary and sometimes important decisions based on horoscopes and Nostradamian predictions.
Yeah.
The book, for example, there was one person who changed their travel itinerary because of something that was revealed in the Weekly World News as a Nostradamus prediction. And this was in the 2000s. So that's pretty recently, I would say.
Yeah.
So, as modern as we are as a culture, we're still largely superstitious, and Nostradamus still very much haunts us in that regards. That regard,
I think the human mind, there is something biologically rooted to believe in superstition, to believe in. It probably might tie into our pattern recognition and all that. I was
just going to say it's patterns.
There is something there because for every, you say I'm the skeptic, but I fall victim to it as well.
Well, yeah, you're human.
There are things that, I will think and I'll be like, why the fuck am I thinking that? But it's like, if I do X, then Y will or won't happen.
Sure.
But the things that aren't related, not like I brush my teeth, therefore my teeth won't fall out. It's more of I don't step on this crack, therefore my mother's back will not be broken.
Well, and
Is
you
that
know,
why you
if
step on
our
cracks?
listeners want to know more about this, I suggest they go back and they listen to that first episode of our Moon series, because we get into that quite a bit.
Oh, yes.
So, you know, part of the harm that comes from Nostradamus being a thing culturally is how it plays into ideology. You know, and we saw that, like, represented very well with the French Revolution, with World War II. You know, so let's talk about a little bit of a modern context here. So, in 1979, the Weekly World News started using Nostradamus constantly. And as much as I love the Weekly World News, I quote it every radio show that I have, there is a very real danger in how it would attach Nostradamus to every single event and tragedy that would spring on the Western culture.
Now, before we go further, I really need to note that in the 1970s, supermarket tabloids actually had just enough investigative journalism and clout to be taken vaguely seriously. I mean, the National Enquirer used to do actual reporting on real news, and it's a far cry from what we know now and the open joke that is a Weekly World News, but in the 70s, the supermarket tabloid did have investigative journalists. So, you know, there was some clout to it, and you have a mixture of the real news and then fucking Nostradamus.
Which is kind of a little more scary because it kind of lends credence. It's like,
Exactly.
well, they were right about, you know, this real thing. Well, here's Nostradamus.
Oh,
what
yeah.
do they know that I don't?
I mean, like, you know, they were all over the whole, like, most government scandals back then. And it's like, well, they were right about Watergate.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, the minute there's an AIDS crisis, Nostradamus saw the AIDS crisis, and that's a problem. So,
Absolutely.
in a lot of ways, Nostradamus is a great tool for the Christian right, who they reject occultism on principle, but can't help but get a little biblical swell at the ideas that Nostradamus predicts the end of the world, or maybe that a war might lead to the end of the world, or a worldwide pandemic might just lead to the end of the world.
Or
So,
burrito night might lead to the end of the world.
Now, that's possible.
yeah, you should see the toilet after.
Oh, my God.
So, yes, claims have been going around for the past 2 years that Nostradamus has foreseen the coronavirus. Not true at all. Again,
Yeah.
it's a lot of that, like, selective editing. A lot of it's just, like, fake prophecies written in the style of Nostradamus.
Right. And these days, they definitely do not do the research.
So part of the reason why this is such a problem is that the end game of Christianity is the end of the world.
It's a doom
And
cult.
yeah, it fuels their response to tragedy. So even though one would assume they would reject the prophecies on principle because, again, it's not very Christian, he essentially speaks their language, even today, centuries later.
I agree, because the inclusion of Revelation in the Bible had a surprisingly adverse effect on Christianity. It gave it this sort of doomsday cult slant, but no hard date for the end times. You know, like the Seventh-day Adventists started out with a date, and now they don't have one, but, like, in a lot of ways, it sends Christians searching for some form of a date and proof so that they'll know when Jesus is coming back, which, like you said, that's the end game. And while all the sources may seem or be occult, it's still something that falls in with the final chapters of the Bible. So, seriously, Christianity's just a doomsday cult with no set in stone final date like Shinrikyo had.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to like judge all Christians, you know.
No,
like,
but I
not
just
all
mean-
Christians. But like there is this kind of larger, more unsettling trend of looking forward to doomsday, which is why so
Yeah.
much of like American policy regarding Israel is the way it is, because it is tied to biblical prophecy and interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, there's no real make the world now a better place. It's, oh, the world will be fine once you're dead.
Yeah, because there's no
Yeah.
there's no hope in the Bible when you get to Revelation, because it's not about making a better world. It's about leaving this world
surviving
to
the
burn.
world to die.
Not even
Yeah.
not even surviving the world, just doing okay, and then
Clip through
be
the
good
plane,
enough
and then you
person to-
arrive in heaven.
yeah.
Or you end up in the back rooms.
There you go.
Yep.
So what I'm getting at here is that there's this whole industry that's kind of predicated upon using these predictions to push damaging ideology, utilizing this strange blend of quasi-mysticism and Christian-adjacent doomsday thought. There's a very real presence and embracing of magical thinking and far-right ideology, and often they'll evoke Nostradamus. So I'm going to quote from a write-up at the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Fantastic organization, by the way.
Yeah, very important work. So this is a discussion between two. This was like a transcript of a discussion between two people in an alt-right group. I don't quite remember the name of it, but
You know what? Let's not give them the satisfaction
yeah.
of being named.
yeah, fuck those guys. Okay, so
These assholes.
yeah, so I'm just going to read this transcript as I have it right here. So, quote, I had a dream about an international training camp. A member of the blank told the others in a group chat on an encrypted app in February 2019. I think it was mid-collapse because I don't think anyone cared much about keeping a low profile because we're making bombs, ammo, and deadly gases. Everyone looked a bit more seasoned than I expected as well. It totally felt real, though. It's a premonition. You're like neo-Nazi Nostradamus, haha. Nazaro wrote back under a pseudonym.
Jesus Christ, that just scares the shit out of me, to be honest.
Yeah, so this guy is talking about, he's having his own prophetic dream of societal collapse and military action among his far-right compadres.
God. It's like the Turner Diaries, but psychic.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. So, I kind of want to leave us with this kind of harrowing image in mind about these two dickheads in an online chat talking about predicting the end of the world and directly evoking Nostradamus and part of their ideology to kind of talk about how harmful this can be.
Yeah, you were talking about his legacy. I think this is his legacy.
Yeah, it's I don't know if it's 100% this, but this is definitely something that we have to grapple with because, the world is heading progressively, well, not progressively, but it's heading in a more rightward direction, at least regarding the people in power, and they're being pushed along by these groups that are kind of embracing this weird quasi-mystical Christian ideology.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's doing Nostradamus dirty.
Sure.
So, I just want to kind of end that there, but I want to know what you guys think about this. We spent, I feel like we're getting close to 4 hours now having talked about Nostradamus.
I'm not going to
is a
tell you
lot
how
of Nostradamus.
accurate you are, but no, I feel that again, it reminds me, like I said last episode, of Blavatsky writing this stuff in her time, and then Hitler going, I like the sound of these magical white people. And it's kind of the same thing, and especially since it's so broadly written, anyone can grapple onto this and just run with it.
Yeah.
And it can be incredibly dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
So, Mike, what's your impression of Nostradamus after spending 4 hours hearing me talk about this guy?
I mean, in general, it's...
Fuck that guy?
No, it's...
Fuck the people that use that guy.
Well, for Nostradamus, so there's too many layers. Nostradamus, the guy, he was obviously just,
He's a simple man trying to make his way in the world.
No, not quite that innocent, because
I'm quoting Boba Fett. There's no innocence here.
Well, I wouldn't say simple either, because he's, you know,
he was kind of part of the elite when you think about it.
He's partly, he's huffing his own farts because he believes he can see shit. By looking into his toilet.
It would be funny if it was just this chamber pot he was looking into.
But no, as far as
read those tea leaves.
They came out as full leaves too.
The undigested tea leaves.
Oh man.
But you know, as far as the legacy goes, I mean, I'm not convinced it has the impact or the importance, but it's still, you know, it's gonna, like anything else, it's being used for people's own agendas. Like, just like the Bible, it's being used for and warped to people's own agendas. I mean, here's the thing. If he could predict shit, he would predict what his words have been used for, and probably would have just burned them.
You know, and I think that's fair. I think that's a fair assessment of that.
Yeah, that's true. Because if he had seen World War II, and not just World War II, but like the way he was used in World War II, there's a very good chance he would have put a crossbow up to the side of his head, I guess.
At least he would have just gotten really drunk.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So, you know, I don't know if we'll be able to draw like a conclusive ending to this, because like there's a lot that we have to contend with all of this. But I do want to kind of wrap this up because I want to play a little game with you guys.
Yeah.
Sure, but before we do play the game, I'm just going to say one thing. There's not going to be an ending to the Nostradamus story until 3797.
When he comes back from
You know what? If he did, it'd make this whole goddamn thing worth it. Even the year 3797, that's what happens.
I don't think I'll be around for that.
Well, even if you became immortal, like I said, I'll kill you on principle.
Don't kill me, please.
Okay,
let me live my
alright,
life. If I find immortality, let me live.
Okay,
Just
so
upload me to a thumb drive and plug me in around then so I can see what's going on.
I'm going to plug you into the sexiest little robot I can find.
Captain Picard's going to be really mad when Nostradamus comes back.
It's just Q the whole time.
Turns out
Hello,
Nostradamus
mon
was cute.
Capitaine. Yeah.
Hello, Jean-Luc.
All right, so this game.
Yeah, so
there
I
fabulous
challenged all
prizes?
three of us to create our own predictive quatrains for 2023.
Okay.
I didn't know that was the rules, but okay.
Hey,
Okay,
the good
well,
news
you
is
know-
the quatrains are, like, vague.
Well, we know someone didn't look at the outline.
No, yes, Kevin just asked me if I'd write a quatrain. I said, sure.
I said if you had written your quatrain.
Well, you said, something about writing quatrains. I said, yeah, I'll write one.
Okay.
But I did not write
Much
it about
like
the future.
Napoleon's forces, 2/3 of us are prepared.
Okay.
So-
well, that's fine.
I have a quatrain. It's just not a predictive one.
Yes, it is.
No worries. Yeah. So, considering Nostradamus predicted 2 years ahead with his prognostications on his deathbed, I figure we can predict 2023 here in February of 2022.
Sure.
So, I think I want you to go first, Kevin. I like yours.
Me, you like my... Thank you. All right, guys. Let me try to do this in the way they did it on, like, all those documentaries I used to watch. The eagle sees the shining light, and thus it splits the nest. Brothers, prepare for the longest fight, and none shall know true rest.
Ooh, I got shivers.
Ooh. How's that for
So-
my ASMR?
So, Eagle has got to be the United States, right?
That's a good guess.
Okay, so this I don't know. Looking at this, I think it means that there's going to be like a split in the United States,
Okay.
like a new civil war.
Yeah.
That's what it's read like to me.
Yep. And I threw the shining light in there in case a nuclear bomb goes off.
Shit, dude, this is sad. scary.
Yeah.
There's something about like a good Nostradamus quatrain that kind of creeps you out because it's like you're watching this at like 1 a.m. on the History Channel in your darkened living room.
Yeah.
You can't sleep and you just hear these like Nostradamus predicted the end of the world, and then they have the quatrain.
And you're like, oh shit, dude, that totally matches up.
Yeah, no, I think you've done an excellent job there. That's fantastic.
Well, thank
I love that
you.
one.
It's like, I want to be vague, but like, I want to throw the hints in, and I got to have a nuclear bomb because everybody's always like, oh, you predicted Hiroshima. All right, David, how about, actually, I want to hear Mike's.
I was going to say, mine's not predictive, so...
Yeah, but, it's like two predictive
we can do yours,
quatrains.
and then we can do a good one.
Ooh. Fuck. Mike, you gonna let him do that to you?
Yes.
Oh shit.
That's
Okay.
my shit.
Okay.
It's not. But so mine. Let's see if I can do the History Channel. You were very southern in your History Channel voice. I just remember it being very neutral.
I was actually doing my Tom Maryland impression from when I read The Wheel of Time.
It sounded very like you came out of the mountains of the Smoky Mountains.
I came off a fuck mountain for this.
A once popular and exalted man, hated for the truth, wrong or right. An election was stolen from his hand. Recounts cannot bring him the House of White.
Fuck. Actually,
Okay, so
the thing is, it still works.
Yeah.
It's just like, one of those in hindsight quatrains.
Yes.
well, do
I
not
like
post
that.
it anywhere because we're going to see it trending on Twitter.
That's why I'm
Do
glad
not
you
fucking post it.
don't
But here,
ever share
do
it.
you know who that's about?
George Bush Sr.
No.
I know it's about that fucking tangerine faced
That's not
bastard.
about Trump either.
What? Who?
About Al Gore.
Yep, you got it.
Son of a bitch. Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude.
But I wrote it to be purposefully confusing.
Dude, that's awesome. You nailed it. I mean,
So
like,
we may have to
Yeah.
censor that entire thing because I do not want to be responsible for the next big QAnon rumor.
Yeah, no, you're gonna listen to the show, and when it gets the Mike's quatrain, it's just gotta be boo for the whole thing, and we're just our reactions. That was good.
No,
though.
that was good though. It was good, man.
Awesome.
You understood the assignment even though you did not actually read the assignment. So good for you.
Very good, Mike. Okay, David, what have you got for us?
Okay, all right. I'm going to try to do my best narrator voice. I'm going to start it and then I'm going to lose it halfway through. So here we go. The waves die down in time, though not without carving the shore. The heavenly sphere becomes rocked as waves resume once more.
Global warming?
No.
Did you write this about an asteroid impact?
No.
Okay. Volcano.
No. Just throw every fucking disaster at me, why don't you?
Is it a dog giving birth?
I'm sure there's a dog giving birth at the time, but it is not about that.
Did you have a vision of a man taking a shit?
I mean, I always kind of do. I'm wired that way. It's weird.
Okay.
I
don't know.
My brain. Yeah, I can't.
Think. I want you to think of the word waves. What might I be referring to? What comes in waves besides regret?
Diarrhea.
Well, okay. Besides regret and diarrhea.
Regretful diarrhea. Jesus, dude. I don't know. You kind of got me stumped on this one.
So,
is it about radio?
No, it's about pandemics.
Ooh. Oh, Omicron.
So
okay.
The wave dies down in time, not without carving the shore. So perhaps the elimination of part of a population.
Okay.
The heavenly sphere
becomes
rocked as there's a new wave of some sort of pandemic.
Okay. Yeah.
It's depressing as shit. I don't know why. I went for
They're always depressing as shit. They're quatrains.
So who won the game? We should ask the listeners to tell us who they think won that one.
Contact us on Discord or via Twitter at SuperNetPod, or fill out the form on the website and let us know which of the 3 quatrains, assuming Mike's doesn't get censored, which one you think is the best. And we will announce it once we get a consensus.
There you go. And with that, I am handing the wheel back to you, Kevin, because I am fucking done.
All right. Congrats. Thank you. You did a fantastic job with these 2, David.
It's fun. It's fun stuff. I already have my next one planned. So
that whole 1-episode one.
Yes, the next one will be 1 episode. But
yes.
then the one after that is going to be another one of my I write entirely way too much.
That's okay.
It's going to be a banger, though. It's going to be a banger.
It's going to be awesome. So, questions. We have some questions that David has been thankfully awesome enough to post in the outline. So, the first one we have is from Kick-Assatron, and he asks, Mike, you're going to like this one.
Yes.
Can I use a time cube to ask what Nostradamus' favorite sandwich was?
Well, I mean, considering how vague and unknowable a time cube is, I'm going to say probably.
I'm going to say no. You can't use time cube for anything.
I'm going to say you need a time cube license.
You can't understand time cube to use time cube.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not saying, within the context of time cube that you've got 4 worlds going on at different points and everything. But no, fuck that. You cannot use time cube for anything. Not even an episode of this show. Let's see. Next, we've got one from Ghost Forge. How close is Nostradamus' style of prediction to the cold reading practices that many mediums use? Very close in the style of prediction. Yeah, it's reading the room. And, yeah.
So I have a life pro tip for everyone. I just took a swig of Gatorade after I took a swig of whiskey. And it does not work.
No. Jesus H. Christ, no.
Yeah, it does not work.
Let's see.
Thought I'd let everyone know. We're here to help.
Let's see. Dusty Pages has a question. How close? No, that's the one I just read. Sorry, getting tired.
Because Mike changed the outline.
Yes. I decided to paste my thing in there just for posterity.
Damn it. Okay, great. Now it can get traced back to us. Dusty, which verse/quatrain is the most overused? And I'm handing that question over to you, David, because you've read more of it.
I would say the one that I had mentioned in the last episode involving Henry II.
That's true.
In the year when France... so it would have been Quatrain 55 of Century 3. In the year when France shall have a one-eyed king, the court shall find itself in a very troubled state. And then on that one, that's also Quatrain 35 of Century 1, which is... The young lion shall overcome the old on martial field in single combat. In a golden cage, his eyes will be put out. 2 into 1, then die a cruel death.
Yeah.
I think that's the most common one.
Okay. And our last question of the night is from Kick-Assatron again. It says, was Nostradamus some sort of time traveler, like new things get attributed to him every so often? And we actually covered that in the show.
Yeah, it's... coattail riders.
Yeah.
A little bit of like if we take the Delphic Oracle version of what he does, it might be a little bit of like astral projection as well through the dreamscape. So
you're saying people were channeling him?
Yeah, it could be that. Yeah.
Sure. Or
why not? Why the fuck not?
Everybody's a fucking grifter.
There you go.
Yeah.
I said it last time.
Everybody loves grifters.
Everybody loves a grifter. That's going to be Bender's new name in the new Futurama. Instead of Bender, it'll be Grifter. So, well, that's it for this week. We made it, guys. We made it all the way through Nostradamus. I'm proud of us.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a good one for us.
Yeah, no, this is definitely a good one. And that is due pretty much entirely to you and your insane researching skills and your writing, David. So, again, thank you so much.
Mental fortitude to put up with it.
Oh, my God, yeah. No.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, and you did a great job covering a subject that, it gets covered, but, like, not this much in depth. They don't talk about the social impact of it that much.
Oh, and I did forget to bring up a point we talked about earlier, Kevin.
What's that?
Simpsons did it.
Oh God, yes.
So everyone talks about Nostradamus and all his predictions, but in a work of fiction, The Simpsons has gotten more right than Nostradamus has.
Well, wouldn't Nostradamus also be a work of fiction?
That's what I'm saying. As far as
Yeah.
if we're
Okay.
comparing works of fiction that have predicted the future, The Simpsons has a better track record than Nostradamus.
Honestly, yeah. Like I was watching, when Disney Plus came out, or Simpsons Plus, as I first called it, because that's all I watched on it.
Right.
They had an early episode about Fox being purchased by Disney, and I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
and
like the GIF that's been going around a lot today is the UN thing where the Russian ambassador hits a button and it goes from Russia to USSR and talking about how we were always were. Ha ha ha.
yeah, it's just shocking. So that's it for the week. We'll be back next week with the Week in Weird. Ooh. Followed by...
Yes, Week in Weird is.
Woo! And then after that, I think we're actually going to try to tackle the Pascagoula River abduction. I've got a really unique angle on it. I have an actual through line for my story, and I'm excited about that. So
Now is it obtuse or obtuse?
it's a cute angle. I think
it's a 37.5 degree angle actually.
Is that the latitude of Florida
No.
Oh,
or the longitude?
well, it's Mississippi anyway, so
Oh, fair enough.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
it's our alien claim to fame here in
I don't know anything
Mississippi's.
outside of the West Coast. I'm sorry.
You bastard! No,
That's Pensacola is
yeah,
Florida.
you're thinking of Pensacola.
Pascagoula.
Pascagoula is on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. I
I like cherry Pensacola.
Oh God. Okay, that's it.
I like cherry
I'm done.
Pensacola Zero.
My fucking brains,
We've
you
killed
guys.
Kevin.
What the fuck? Guys, thank you for listening.
He's ending the episode just so we'll shut up.
You're goddamn right I am. So, we've gotten a lot of new listeners lately, including, who's the one that joined us in the Discord?
Ginger something.
Ginger Apocalypse. So, welcome, Ginger Apocalypse. I'm glad you enjoy the show. And I know we've been getting a lot of new listeners lately. And
I do want to shout out to the people that have come into the store. You know which store, and has said they listen. You know who you are.
And the people that have very kindly talked about the Pascagoula thing with me. One woman, and I meant to bring this up, one woman in particular said, "Oh, I told my little grandson about that, and he is just obsessed with it. And I'm wearing my new Pascagoula shirt. I need to bring that up.
Yeah.
I'm wearing, it's got the shape
had-
of Mississippi.
You had 3 people come up to you and talk to you about it just from the first day you wore that shirt?
Yeah, it's got the shape of Mississippi and a silhouette of the Pascagoula River aliens on it.
I'm going to paint a mental picture for you people on Radio Land. It literally looks like Spy versus Spy, but with lobster claws.
He's not
for
wrong.
hands.
He's not wrong. So, but this woman's talking about, oh, my mom used to work down there when that happened. She worked at a shipyard, and I told my little grandson about it, and he is just obsessed with UFOs and aliens and everything. I think he may be on the spectrum. And I'm like, you fucking bitch, I'm wearing the shirt.
Well, birds of a feather.
Fuck off.
That's really fucking funny.
Yeah, bite me. So,
Oh man, I would have laughed so
Kevin.
hard. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm laughing
We're in
really
the
hard right
South.
now.
well,
We're in the South, Kevin. I can only say one thing to you. Bless your heart.
No, fuck you. Bless your heart is never followed by anything good, or bless their
Bless your
heart.
heart.
Or follows anything good.
Yeah. Oh, bless his heart. He's as dumb as a sack of hammers. Yeah, no, it's always something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. In the South, bless your heart is the most cutting of Southern sayings.
Bless his heart, God fucked up, and here he is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Ooh, that's
So-
fun. I'm having a wonderful time.
I'm glad you are. So don't forget to check out our website for links to just about everything at supernatpod.rocks. Hit us up on our social media. We're on Twitter and Facebook, though we're more active on Twitter at supernatpod. You can email us. Just use the contact form on our website. It's easier than me repeating the emails.
Because you made it stupidly long.
I really fucking did, dude, and I apologize.
I came up with the name too, so I share responsibility.
You
for that.
really do. And of course, David, you can be found at HPKOMIC at HP Comic.
Yes, indeedy. And you can
Yes.
also listen to my radio show, The Mutant Hours.
Yes, check out all the shows on deviantbehaviorradio.com. We've got this show, The Mutant Hours, my show, Bastard Beats, The Clark Wayne Show, Toxic, Organic Poison, Key Parties. Just everything's on there. Go check it out. And I guess that's it for the week. So, anybody else got any closing words?
If I had to do it again, I would name the show The Dumbo Show.
The Dumbo Show?
I don't know, just something really short.
Bless your heart. That's really mean to Kevin.
Oh, God.
It's mean to all of us.
It is. So, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week. So until then, stay safe and stay frosty. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. This is where I sleep.
I go poo-poo and Nostradamus is bored.